The information, Dr. Ashman, she's an author, an inspirational speaker, an educator, e-learning specialist, and a certified brain training coach. I mean, she's coming with ammunition. Again, I brought experts today, all right? And Dr. Ashman, she's the owner, the CEO of Ashman Academy, and she's also, I want to say owner, right? Manager of Sage E-Learning. And welcome. Her topic is how parents can support their children in order to maximize online working. Online learning. I'm so sorry. Online learning. Welcome, Dr. Ashman.
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Dr. Neva, colleagues, parents, students who are going to be watching this afterwards. Hello. Thank you for having me, Dr. Neva. And my topic today, Verdell did such a great job talking about the role of parents that I am sitting here and thinking, okay, I need to modify a little bit because she did a very comprehensive job on that topic. Okay, so I want to talk about the role of parents, yes, and I also want to talk a little bit about the role of teachers. So a little on my background. In 2003, I came to the USA to study. I came to do my master's. And when I was done, I actually went for a job interview. And at the interview, gentlemen were talking about their company. And they owned an e-learning company. Now, a year prior to 2005, I had started an online test prep business in Jamaica. And let me tell you something, when I listened to the gentlemen talk about their company and what they have done in the US and so on, I stopped the interview and I said, listen, guys, I no longer want this job. What I want to do is to hire you guys to work for me, but I don't have any money to pay you. But this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to go back to the Caribbean and I'm going to bring e-learning there. And you guys are going to work for me. We're going to make money and I'm going to pay you a percentage of what I make in the Caribbean. And that's how I started e-learning in the Caribbean back in 2005. I started the first e-learning company. I have done tremendously well. I've partnered with some top universities. I've done work with Harvard. I've done work with large book publishing houses, Macmillan Publishers, Nelson Thornes. I've done work with governments and that kind of thing, you know. So I took e-learning back to the Caribbean. Now it's ubiquitous. It's all over the place. So we have many players in the market. And in 2020, I started an e-learning business in Florida. So that's my background. All right, so how can parents support students, their teenagers, and students in general with online learning? All right, so parents can actually work with students to build their knowledge and help them to develop confidence and a love for learning. In education, we call that self-efficacy, getting children to actually believe in themselves, believe that they can do it. And that's an important part of parenting, because one of the biggest things that we can do as adults is to actually get our learners or our children to believe that, hey, you can do this. So one skill we want to work on is to help to build confidence, you know. So even if a child is struggling, I mean, whether online or offline, you want to always provide that support and to say to the child, yes, I know you can. All right. Another thing that we can do, whether it's online or offline, is to figure out your child's learning style, because different children have different learning styles, right? Your child might be a kinesthetic learner. Your child might be a visual learner. Your child might be an auditory learner. So figuring out how your child learns best is key to actually giving them resources that will help them to learn based on their learning styles. So that is very important. Another thing that parent can do, and Verdell did touch on that, is to make sure that they provide the tools that the child is going to need. So you want to make sure that for the online learning environment, you have a computer, whether it's going to be a desktop or a laptop or a tablet. You want to make sure that you have internet connection. So, I mean, we're not going to go to Disney and spend the money now. We're going to pay the cable bill. So we want to make sure that we have the tools so that online learning can take place. Now, we also as parents want to make sure that we reduce distractions as much as possible. So I teach online now, and some of the things that I notice is that I'm teaching and a parent is walking behind the child. We can't do that. Or a child may be on doing their online class and you hear the television in the background. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that as much as possible, we reduce distractions, right? So you give your child an environment that is conducive for learning. We keep down the noise. So if you're talking, you want to go somewhere else to hold your conversation. If you're on the phone too as a parent, you stay out of the earshot of the class space. All right, so you want to make sure that you do that. You also want to ensure that you get your child to understand the reason for online learning, right? So, hey, COVID is happening or whatever it is that's going on, this is the reason that we're doing this, and, help to get your child to understand the importance for him or her to participate in class. All right, so those are some things that are very important. And like I said at the start, Verdell did such a great job talking about the role of parents that I'm just going to jump straight down to what teachers can do to maximize students participating and learning in an online setting. Now, last year, March, I was thinking about the role or the biggest impact that the pandemic would have on education. And I did a video on Facebook, and I spoke about learning gaps and I spoke about learning loss. The research and the data is showing that learning gaps and learning loss, that those two things are some of the major impact because of the pandemic, as a result of the pandemic. Now, learning loss speaks to information that has been lost because it's not been used over a period of time. And learning gaps talks about, the difference between what a child should know versus what it is that they do know. Now, here is what we can do as parents and teachers, talking about teachers now, to bridge the learning loss and the learning gaps. So parents will call me from time to time and say, hey, Dr. Ashman, what can I do to mitigate learning loss, to help my child to, so we want to find out what we can do to help my child to remember some of the things that they're supposed to be knowing. You also want to find out what it is that you can do to bridge those gaps. And let me tell you, there is a solution. So guys, because your child is in school, not if, your child will be working from a curriculum. So the first thing you want to do, teachers, yeah, your students are working from curriculum. Parents too, your child will be working from a curriculum. First thing you want to do, you want to grab that curriculum. And if you're going to figure out the learning gaps, that is what your child is supposed to know versus what your child knows, then one of the things you want to do is to grab that curriculum and you want to do a little test your knowledge kind of thing with your child. So you want to go through the curriculum and say, hey, do you understand nouns? Do you understand verbs? Do you understand adjectives? And you tick those off. Now, your gaps are going to be what it is that they should know versus what it is that they do know. And if you're going to now come up with a solution to bridge those gaps, those are the things that you want to focus most attention on. So sometimes parents and teachers will say, okay, I'm keeping extra class. It can't be a one solution for everybody. So one of the things you want to do as teachers and as parents is to figure out what are the learning gaps, and then you might want to group students so that they could work on those areas that they need attention. As parents too, you might want to get a tutor, or you might want to just work with a child to bridge those gaps. All right, and you do the same thing for learning loss. You might want to just go through your curriculum, see what it is that your child doesn't remember, because learning loss means that they would have not remembered the data or the information because they haven't been using it for a period of time. So the same way you figure out the gaps, it's in a similar manner that you're going to actually figure out the learning loss, and you want to mitigate those. You want to actually do that. Now, I'm still on teacher, so I've modified my presentation. I'm on teachers, right? Now, teachers, some of the things that you're going to do to make sure that students maximize what is being done in the online space, you want to make sure that students are involved in the lesson. So it can't be a situation where we are just talking, like it's a simplex. Information is just going out. You want to make sure that you're getting feedback. You want to do collaborative assignments. For example, on Sunday, I was teaching a writing class, right? And I said to students, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to get everybody to write in an online document in real time, another person to write supporting details and so on. So I got everybody in a tool as simple as Google Docs, and everybody was just participating. They're writing on the board, and they love that. I mean, so you want to make sure, you know, as teachers, that we get everybody involved in the lesson, right? Now, we want to have our little breakout rooms. So, I mean, that students are working in their groups. We want to vary our learning resources as well. So, for example, as teachers, we can source learning resources that, you know, includes ebooks, interactive ebooks, because one of the things that students complain about is that online learning sometimes is boring. So as educators, we have to ensure that we have interactive ebooks. We have to ensure that we have videos. We have to ensure that we have text. We have to ensure that we have interactive graphics and stuff like that. Let us say that, you know, the child is supposed to learn the different states in the USA. You don't just want a blank map on the screen. You want an interactive map. They click on one part of the map, it pops up the states, it pops up the rivers, it pops up all kinds of things. You want to make sure that you have those kinds of tools, and you know, you keep the children's attention during your lesson. You also want to make sure that you provide, like I said before, a variety of learning experiences. And you want to not just end those experiences in the classroom, you want to give activities, you know, for homework that is going to foster that, all right? One big thing that I wanted to talk about now is a great opportunity, a great time to explore things like augmented reality, where, I mean, you have a lot of textbooks out there. They can get textbooks and workbooks that, you know, they could just download an app, place their app over those books, and they can watch videos in the books. So, I mean, you want things that is just going to support, you know, visual learning, you know, auditory learning, that kind of a thing. So you want to encourage things like augmented reality, virtual learning, virtual reality, you know, simulations. So, I mean, you're doing chemistry lab, you're not just going to do talk, you're going to make sure that you use a simulation tool so they can see inside the body. They can do things, you know, they can pretend that they're dissecting a frog or whatever. You have those software, so you have to make sure that you vary your learning tools so that, you know, you bring the lesson alive. All right, that's my presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and I am here if you have questions that you want to ask me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashman. Very informative.